After this all happened, Jesus took his disciples away to a garden to pray. Jesus and his disciples arrived in the garden that was called Gethsemane. Jesus told them, "This will be a difficult time. Please stay awake and pray for the faith to get through it." Then he went away from them to talk to God. "Father, if there is some possible way that I don't have to suffer this fate, please show me the way out. But if not, I will obey you, even though it's not my will." Jesus was so emotional, and he prayed so intensely that he was sweating blood. When he went back to his disciples, he found that they had fallen asleep. He woke them up and said, "Why are you sleeping? You need to pray, that you can be ready for what's ahead." While he was saying this, Judas arrived, accompanied by armed soldiers. He went up to Jesus and gave him a hug, which was the sign to the soldiers who they should arrest. The other disciples began to understand what was going on. One of the disciples attacked one of the soldiers and cut off his ear. Jesus told him to stop. "No more," he said. "Whoever uses violence will die by it as well." Jesus healed the soldier's ear. Then he asked them, "Why didn't you arrest me during the day? I was preaching to the crowds in public places, and I never hid myself. But now is your time, the time where darkness reigns." The disciples had already run away in fear, and Jesus was taken away to be questioned. There, the soldiers were mocking Jesus. They blindfolded him and hit him and asked, "Tell us, prophet, who hit you?" Peter had secretly followed them and was watching from a distance. Suddenly, a woman recognized him. "Haven't you been traveling with that man?" "No," Peter said. "You must have mistaken me for someone else." "Aren't you one of the people he called disciples?" a man asked. "No, I've never even met the man," Peter answered. But another man insisted, "I also saw you with him." Peter shouted angrily, "I don't know him." At that moment, the sun rose, and Jesus looked right at Peter. Peter remembered what he had told him during supper, and he went away crying. The religious leaders started questioning Jesus. "Are you the Savior sent from God?" "Yes, I am," Jesus answered. They were angry because Jesus was claiming to be as important as God himself. They took him to the Roman governor, Pilate, to be judged. In front of Pilate, the religious leaders started accusing Jesus. "He's planning a rebellion against the government. He tells the people not to pay their taxes. He claims to be the new king." Pilate listened to them and then asked Jesus himself, "Is this true? Are you the king of the Jews?" "Yes, I am," Jesus replied. When Pilate returned to the religious leaders, he said, "I don't see any reason that he deserves punishment." They continued trying to convince him, "We know that he's dangerous. You have to put him to death." Pilate still had no intention of sentencing Jesus. So Pilate asked him, "Don't you want to say anything to defend yourself? Don't you know that I have the power to set you free?" Jesus answered, "You have power over me only because God has given it to you." The religious leaders had gathered together a huge crowd outside, and they were all shouting, "Put him to death!" Pilate tried one last thing to save Jesus. During the Passover festival, it was customary to let one prisoner go free. So he brought an infamous murderer named Barabbas out of prison and asked the crowd, "Who should go free, Jesus or Barabbas?" The people shouted, "Barabbas!" "And what should I do with Jesus?" Pilate asked. "Kill him!" cried the people.